We have a purple and red behind us because we want to tone down because we're about to talk about the bloodiest cartoon you have ever seen.
Welcome back to Asart with Nick and John. We post 3 videos a week. Hit that subscribe button to stay updated and go to asart.space for audio and video links and some cool stuff we have. Some shirts and some other fun stuff. All right, so let's talk about this.
The bloodiest cartoon ever. So
with foaming at the mouth and very interesting. It's rated U. So
in the UK, it's rated
in
U for
the
everyone.
UK for everyone.
So let me give my quick background story about this. I saw this when I was a kid, and it traumatized me. I had nightmares.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a bloody cartoon. Having watched it again, though, and by the way, we watched this on HBO Max. This is one of these little hidden gems that you're probably not going to hear about being on the service, but Nick found out because we had talked about covering this film before, and I was like, I don't know where to find it.
Because of Netflix.
Yes, because Netflix had rebooted and done a version
3D,
of the CG,
terrible,
which we might talk about a little bit,
good.
but it was looking a little bit rough. Whereas this is beautiful, old school animation style stuff.
Yeah.
But then it goes, hey, it's on HBO Max. No way. So we watched it, and I enjoyed it way more this time around. Did you enjoy it overall?
I mean, I enjoyed it. I mean, it's not my pacing for sure. I'm very much on the Pixar Disney game when it comes to pacing and storytelling now, which is fine. Like sometimes even when I watch the old Star Wars movies, sometimes it's like the first one.
Different
it just feels like, all right, for sure. Let's get there. You know what I mean? Like, but it's not. It's just because we're being trained.
Nick's favorite movies are the prequel Star Wars movies. He just wants action. Just kidding.
Misa, nosa. No. Yeah.
All right, so we have a lot of fun things to talk about. This is going to be tangents and just fun things where we're going to talk about the film overall. If you haven't, head over to HBO Max. It is a very cool old animation style. If you have a young kid, though, don't have them.
No. And we like HBO Max a lot. We've also covered His Dark Materials, Watchmen, Raised by Wolves. So if there's other shows you would like us to cover, or even movies, we're all in for HBO Max.
We even have a video, is HBO Max worth it? So check that out if you're not sure about it. Because
so if you don't have the membership, check that out. You might want to get one. All right, so let's talk about these cute rabbits, bunnies, and extreme violence. Go! That's so you have the 2 main characters, brothers, right? You have Hazel and Fiver. I think it's Fiver. Fiver. And Hazel's like the very level-headed. Yeah. Like he's the born leader guy, and you have the guy that's on acid or something who can see the future. The rabbit that eats the moldy carrots. You know what I mean? Like he's a little bit too much, you know.
Well, so the author, we're gonna jump around, but the author, Richard Adams, right?
Yes.
He was a big fan of The Hero with 1,000 Faces, which is the famous book that Joseph Campbell wrote about the hero's journey. And if you guys haven't read The Hero with 1,000 Faces, or The Hero's Journey is the transcript of the BBC documentary, or not BBC, but a documentary that they did on basically what goes into a good story. From all the civilizations we've ever heard of that have written civilizations, they share these common themes. And so he drew a lot from the Aeneid and the Iliad and things like that. But then it has all kinds of mythology incorporated into it, which is really, really cool. Which is something they did a lot of, is they would have the foreseer, and sometimes in Greek mythology they go into where they have all these toxic fumes that would make them have visions, and of course other people would smoke things. So so one of the main characters in the story is this kind of seer that's able to prophesize what's going to happen. And then, like I said, we have the more level-headed character as well.
So they're brothers. I think they're brothers. Is everyone in a rabbit colony brothers? But so basically, and then he's like, let's get out of here. They leave, and then Bigwig is like one of the bigger rabbits, I guess. That's why his name's Bigwig. He basically stops the guard from stopping them from leaving. He's like, hey, I heard he almost killed this guy. I'm wanted. Let's go. You know what I mean? So, and it's very much like the grass is greener on the other side. It's a survival story. Not like remnant survival. Well, I guess it is, though, because they're kind of hiding from bears and tigers and bears. Oh, my. Lions, tigers, and bears. But it's so interesting because, like, everything's after them, and it's established right away with a beautiful animation sequence at the intro, establishing the rules of the gods or whatever, and how rabbits were so boastful and they whatever.
Yeah, and that's one of the coolest things about this is the author made up his own mythology just for rabbits, like the creation of rabbits. The main rabbit, the god rabbit,
why they have so many predators,
was too prideful and didn't want to change his ways. So the god gave all the different animals special abilities that could catch rabbits. And rabbits were going down; they were really messed up. And then they gave the rabbit not the prey power, but the
speed,
but
hearing,
giving the speed to be able to evade
and the
things.
hearing and all.
And
that
it's just
stuff.
a fascinating thing. And the cool little bit of trivia is a different company, a different guy did the animation for the opening motion graphics type sequences. And I wonder if that person would have been kept on, if the whole movie would have been different than it was. Because the main movie is beautiful watercolors, good animation, but the opening is like very kind of motion graphics or what you would think of now. So really, really fun
beautiful
stuff.
Beautiful entrance. And it's so interesting too, because that almost sets the tone. Because like the animation, when you're with the rabbits, like once they leave, or even like once they get attacked, you're like on edge the whole movie, just like the rabbits are, right? Because the rabbits are always on edge because they're constantly being preyed after, right?
Yeah.
And it's funny too, because like even though you have hawks and wolves and badgers and skunks and all this stuff, like
the biggest threat to rabbits
are rabbits. It's almost like humans though. Like the biggest threat to humans are humans. Like, you know what I mean?
And that's
like
what I really loved about it. So I thought this book was made around particular cultures and their struggles. Did you get? I had a strong idea on.
I just got there were rabbits looking for a home.
I actually took some thoughts from Native Americans where they were uprooted. They had to leave because of civilization was being put in their place. They had to leave. They found this one particular burrow of rabbits that were just given stuff, and they were more complacent and they wanted to be more interested in like more like theoretical type thinking. And they thought we're losing our roots, we're losing what's important, something doesn't feel right here. So they moved on. And so I had that feeling of like, Native American, but when I read up more about it, that's not what it was. But I thought that was kind of... So the cool thing is it was made abstract enough that you can make connections to all kinds of different cultures, but it also...
I wonder if the writer even had like that in mind, or you think he was just writing a story? He might have just been writing a story.
It sounds like it was just more based on the hero's journey and probably just mythology.
And then like what I read about the writer was he served in the war and everything, and a lot of the characters, the rabbit characters, are his like people he served with.
By name as well? Or?
I don't know if I don't think by name.
If he had a friend named Bigwig, that'd be pretty awesome.
Piper. Yeah, maybe that was like their nicknames because they were known for having nicknames and stuff. But it's very interesting too because it kind of has like a Saving Private Ryan kind of vibe where they're going to one place to the next to hit their ultimate goal. And there was even a scene with like the hawk, like the first like sense of danger when someone dies, and it almost reminded me of like a sniper.
Yeah, it's just
circumstance. It's just instant.
Don't
like,
even know
gone.
what's there and it's just gone.
Yeah, it's just gone. Like because they had no idea. But I mean, you're on edge the whole time. They're trying to cross the water, and then they're trying to cross the open plain, and then one bigwig gets snagged in a snare. And so, you know what's so interesting?
I remember that's one of the things that really stuck with me when I was a kid that scared me because there was a bloody scene being pinned down,
foaming
choking,
and bleeding. Yeah. It's very interesting. So, like after the scene when the first rabbit dies, it's like they set an established thing where it's like any of these rabbits can die anytime. You know what I mean? It was like very much established. Like any threat, a rabbit could be taken. Yeah. Like it was like it was. So it's like you're just kind of like, who's next? That was like the thing. You know what I mean? It was like Game of Thrones before Game of Thrones was around. You know what I mean? Like
this is the rabbit
characters are safe. Yeah, it's like you have the mountain, Bigwig. You have the hound or whatever. No, the hound would be Bigwig. Yeah. And you have a Brand who's the sightseer. Anyway, we're going off topic. But it was very interesting how we were on edge the whole time. There was no guarantee that any of the rabbits were going to make it. There was
one of the things I like about what Nick is saying, it's like Saving Private Ryan. It's a very believable story as far as it's not outlandish and they're flying and all this crazy stuff. It's like these are people, or in this case, like people being embodied in rabbits that are going through the struggles.
It could be humans. It can be it could be any other animals too that are like it could be wolves trying to find it. Could be Call of the Wild.
But it was really cool because it was a very believable story. You had entities that could be very easily killed. They weren't super powered. They weren't invincible. They were very
vulnerable.
Yes, they're very vulnerable. Yeah.
I mean, let's talk about, before we keep going with the story, let's talk about some of the extreme violence. So they're buried alive. Rabbits were buried alive, and like the way the heads were morphing and the eyes were rolling up, it's like, what the heck are we freaking watching here? This is rated U for everyone. We were watching rabbits get buried alive. Like that's dark. Yes. And you know what's funny? This movie's been out since the 70s.
Yeah.
And the most recent DVDs are still rated U. They haven't changed the rating systems on this yet.
And another interesting thing too is in the UK, it's like we have the National Preserve for
Yes.
important films. In the UK, it has the equivalent thing. It's considered a national kind of like treasure, which and it is an amazing animated film. I really, really like it. So then we have the main theme song, which is by Art Garfunkel from Simon and Garfunkel. Like a #1 chart-topping song was written for this. So not only is it a like
just like The Graduate.
Actually, it's just like The Graduate. Yeah, that was Simon Garfunkel. Huh? Yeah, so just like that,
Hello,
we
darkness, my old friend.
that's
That
really-
could have worked for this movie.
Oh, that could have worked for this movie.
Especially
Someone
when they
get
were
on
they were in
that.
the cave and stuff like that.
Eyes rolling back.
That being buried alive. Gosh, this is so
the extreme
sad.
violence you're talking about.
Yes, there's a lot of extreme
And then the
violence.
snare is probably the bloodiest thing
Oh,
for me.
man,
The,
yeah, the
when
snare's
Big
bad.
Web gets caught in the snare, that is just. I mean, you're seeing.
Oh,
they don't cut away. You're just seeing him completely straight up choking and dying.
And then the general, right? We have
Yes.
the big bad at the end, General Woodward or something like that. I can't
that is
remember.
a bad.
Cunning,
rabbit, just straight up
smart,
going after a dog.
and strong.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
but like he's cunning, he's smart and strong. Like for the most part.
And what Nick was saying too, he's just not a dumb evil villain.
Yeah.
Like he has his reasons, he has his ideas, he's powerful, so people follow him. It's like he's a good villain.
It's a good villain,
Yeah.
really good villain. A lot of fear, even when he was like digging underneath the tunnels and like destroying Bigwig and all that stuff and foaming at the mouth. A lot of foaming at the mouth. I mean, I don't want to say that. Frothing at the mouth or whatever you want to put it, but even the dog foaming at the mouth and all that stuff.
But
did he die?
What a cool way that they even
sorry.
had his death become a legend too. And
Oh, so he did die.
They said, and you never.
Oh, they
know.
used
Some
as
say
fear,
that
right?
Some say that he just lived on, and yeah.
And which he probably would want to do. I feel like he would want to be lived on as something people feared. I feel like he won in the end. He won in the
The
end.
animated rabbit wanted to live on in fear.
No, to scare other
Yeah,
rabbits.
yeah.
Like I feel like that's what he lived for.
But it was cool how they did this all in a past tense as far as history and things like that. I really like the aspect of it. That
And the
always
whole-
gives
yeah,
some credence to it. Is when,
yeah.
when someone presents something as history, it just has a little bit more of a believability to it. Did you know Watership Down is an actual place?
in Britain.
And it's like a hill. It's called Watership. So
That's
I
where it
always
takes
wondered,
place.
like, Watership Down. There's no ships in this. There's no water.
There
Where's
is. Don't they go on a boat to escape?
Fine, they go on a boat. Fine. Jerk. But so that's an actual Watership Down is an actual place. It's actual hill.
that's
So I
cool.
thought that was interesting. Yeah.
So, what did you think of the bird?
The bird.
And don't! Oh, well, a bird.
Oh, the bird. What is the bird?
The bird. The bird is the word. The bird.
The bird. But so the bird reminded me. I thought it was the same voice actor, and I think I'm wrong. But
You no plan. You need mate for plan. Listen. I got plan for you. Win better. I go fly.
in The Secret of NIMH, which is my all-time favorite animated film, there is a idiot crow in that film called Jeremy. And in this film, there's an idiot seagull. And so this obviously film came first. I'm like, I wonder if that played a part. And they had very similar voices and ways of talking. I guess the guy,
Didn't
the
he
actor,
say something like "stick it up your butt" or something like that?
No,
Or no,
sure
suck something. He said something where I was like, "What the heck?" This is a
but
kid's
I
movie.
guess this guy was a pretty famous actor, I think. And this was his last role, I think he did before he died. So
Was there a voice actor in this movie that was also in Lord of the Rings?
so the biggest name actor in this that I recognize, and I recognize from all kinds of movies, is John Hurt.
Think it's safe now, Fiver. Look, Bigwig. When have I ever asked to see the Chief Rabbit before?
And he played Hazel, the main rabbit,
Yes,
right?
the smart one.
The smart one.
The Strider of the group.
The Strider of the group, which is interesting because he actually played Strider / Aragorn in the animated Lord of the Rings film. Now, I'm going to go down the list real quick of this guy's
Before he
filmography.
goes down the list, we've been doing a breakdown of the animated Lord of the Rings series,
Yes, yeah.
comparing it to the live action and also just animation walk
Well, in general,
cycles,
yeah.
backgrounds,
Really fun
the
stuff.
psychedelic, rotoscoping, you name it, we're covering it in detail.
One of our favorite series we're doing on here. Honestly, out of
Yes.
everything we've done, that's one of the most
Yes.
fun we've had. Yeah.
We talk about the Balrog, how it looked like Man Bear Pig from South Park. Like, you guys, you got to check it out.
Fun
It's
stuff,
so
fun
good. We'll put it
And
all
if
over
you
the
haven't
place.
seen the animated Lord of the Rings, the Ralph Bakshi one, definitely watch it. It is
Yes.
an interesting viewing for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
Take an edible before.
So John Hurt.
Don't
let me
take an
just-
edible before.
So John Hurt, let me just go down this real quick. Watership Down the next year is when he did Lord of the Rings, Ralph Bakshi Lord of the Rings. He was Aragorn. The next year after that, he's in the movie Alien. He was the guy who had the chest burst on. So the first Alien, the first time you saw the chest burst, that was him. He was in The Elephant Man, which is an amazing film as well. I don't think you've seen that.
Nope.
History of the World Part 1.
I'll take your word for
he
it.
is Jesus Christ in History of the World Part 1.
No,
Yeah.
I love that part.
Yes. So another film
Have you seen that movie?
No, I've never seen it. Oh, no, History of the World, I have seen part of that. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah,
you have?
Yeah.
That's when they're at the table?
Yes, yeah.
And he's taking the order?
And then he's like, the picture.
And no, so Jesus is like, so one of you are going to betray me tonight. And then the waiter goes, Mel Brooks is like, Judas!
Yeah,
and he's like, so, what do you want, wine? You want something? It's like one of my favorite scenes.
That's right, yeah. That's John Hurt, that's Jesus Christ in that. The next year, he did another animated film by the same company. It's called Plague Dogs. I want to watch it. I don't think that's an HBO, but we need to watch it.
Okay, so Plague Dogs is also based off a book, right?
Yes.
And it's supposed to be very graphic, like this
yes,
movie.
Yes, it's supposed to be.
And it's about
the same company.
So it's about like dogs.
A testing thing, right?
And they have this island they need to get to, this Isle of Dogs. I wonder if it's connected to the Isle of Dogs Wes Anderson
Different
films.
movies.
Anyways, but I think I've seen that too. It's a long time ago, like this one.
I'll
but
have to track this one down. I'm not even
very
sure this one's
similar
on HBO,
animation. It might even be the same animation.
I think
studio.
it is the same animation studio. Yeah. So then
put it on the list.
Yes. So it's 1984 is based on it's the only film adaptation I think of the famous book 1984. He played
George
the main
Orwell.
guy. He played Winston Smith in that.
Oh.
Let's see, The Black Cauldron. He was in that, which is an animated film.
Yeah.
Spaceballs.
No, he was Spaceballs.
Yeah, Spaceballs. He is Kane, which I don't think was a huge role. So he's in the movie Contact. So he's in the Harry Potter films. He plays more into the.
He's the wand maker, right?
He's the wand maker. Yeah, he's the wand maker.
Ollivander's shop.
And then he's in the Hellboy films. And Indiana Jones, the King of the Crystal Skull. He's the guy that holds the crazy old man. Yeah, so he has a huge
acting
list
career.
of films. He recently died, which is a bummer.
So
he was
sad.
a great actor.
So any last thoughts? Like, I mean, I want to talk a little bit about like the death, right?
Yeah.
And how he was ready to go.
Yeah.
It's almost like Harry Potter. Remember, like the third brother who had the cloak?
Mm-hmm.
He met
Greeted death.
Yeah, he greeted death, kind of thing. And I thought that was really cool. Like he saw what he did and came to accomplish was all good to go.
Yeah.
And he felt safe moving on. Like his legacy was.
And it was just kind of cool too the way they transitioned, because then they transitioned back into that motion graphics art style. And again, it gives you that sense of this is something that's existed. We're hearing about history. But it's really cool. But yeah, that's kind of a cool idea. Is they went through all these things to get to this place, and at the end of his life, he's comfortable with that.
Yeah,
It's
I'm just happy
like,
we didn't get the Lord of the Rings ending, where it's
like 5 endings.
It fades and it comes back and it fades and it comes back. And he's like an old man with grandkids and he fades and he comes back.
And then he gets on the Watership Down, which takes him to the Grey Havens.
But then he comes back.
But honestly, it was a really fun film. A lot of allegory, but just a lot of mythology in there in general.
Animation wasn't too bad. Like it holds up pretty good.
Actually, that's something I was going to say. They were very smart in how they did the animation. They did a lot of angles where you could not see them talking, so you didn't need to see their articulation. In certain shots, they articulated the mouths very well, but in other shots, they just did the basic movement. So they were very...
It's also rabbits.
Yeah, if they talked to,
no one knew what rabbits looked like when they talked. I mean, well, Bugs Bunny was around, but... What's up, Doc?
But a lot of cool stuff like to draw on as far as existing civilizations, past civilizations, just mythology in general. And honestly, the voice cast is very... If you guys look up Watership Down animated on Wikipedia, if you go down the list, some very accomplished actors and actresses.
Would people be into this if they're not into like slow pacing movies and stuff? You think it would be hard for people to get through this?
Well, that's something too that maybe goes along to why I think it's a more realistic story, is because it's paced out like a more real kind of adventure. It's definitely not made for modern audiences, but the way it's paced out, I think.
Yeah, it's no Minion story.
It's not Minions, no. Really good film, you guys. Just if you happen to have HBO Max, it is on there, which is awesome. Yes. I was going to have a hard time. Even on Netflix through the mail, they do not have that film. So to track it down would have been hard. And here it is on HBO Max. So
buy HBO Max.
Yeah, if you guys are curious, check out is HBO Max worth a video?
HBO Max, you can sponsor us too. We're really shouting out a lot.
But really good stuff. A fun film that I just thought of. This video is probably not going to be one of our biggest videos as far as viewership, but it's a fun film. Nick and I just want to go through and talk about the films that we liked. Animation film, in this case, I got over a childhood film of being scared to death of this film. So really fun stuff.
Scary stuff.
Yeah, scary stuff. Really brutal stuff.
I mean, it's up there with The Red Wedding. I mean, and let us know if there's any other animated films we should be watching, or that we're missing too.
Yeah.
Like, because I would love to go back and see some old crappy animated films. No, I'm just kidding. It's not a graphic.
This was good. Thank you very much for watching. Check out Asart.space for the audio and video links, and we'll see you on the next Asart.